The audience was laughing. Robin Williams was mid-joke, his voice riding the rhythm of 1,000 shows before this one. And then, without warning, he stopped. His hand went to his face. His shoulders dropped. The laughter faded into confusion, then concern, then absolute silence. Because Robin Williams wasn't laughing anymore. He was crying. And the reason why would break your heart. It started 23 years earlier. Not on a stage. Not in a spotlight. In a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and fear, where a 7-year-old boy named Daniel sat clutching a worn teddy bear, waiting for surgery he didn't understand. His parents had explained it as best they could. Brain tumor. Risky procedure. But Daniel was 7. All he knew was that he was scared, and the clown nose a nurse had given him wasn't helping. That's when Robin walked in. Not as a celebrity. Not as a guest. Just as a man who happened to be visiting the children's ward that afternoon, the way he often did when he was in town. No cameras. No press. Just Robin, a deck of cards, and a gift for making scared kids forget, even for a moment, that they were scared. He sat on the edge of Daniel's bed. "You know," Robin said in that voice, the one that could shift from Jeannie to Mrs. Doubtfire in a heartbeat. "I heard you're about to go on the biggest adventure of your life." Daniel looked up, eyes wide. "But first," Robin continued, pulling a red foam nose from his pocket. "You need the proper equipment." He placed the nose on Daniel's face. Then he put one on his own. They looked at each other. And Daniel laughed. A real laugh. The kind that makes the fear step back, just for a second. But what Robin did next was something Daniel would carry with him for the rest of his life. Something he never forgot. Something that, years later, would bring them both to tears. Robin leaned in close. "You know what?" he whispered. "When you wake up from this, you're going to be a superhero. And superheroes? They always come back stronger." He pulled a small, battered microphone keychain from his jacket. "This is my good luck charm," Robin said, pressing it into Daniel's palm. "It's been with me on every stage, every show. Now it's yours. And when you're ready, when you're all better, you're going to use it. Because the world needs to hear your voice." Daniel held that keychain like it was made of gold. "Promise?" he whispered. Robin smiled, that crooked, gentle smile that wasn't for the cameras. "Promise." The surgery took 11 hours. Daniel's parents sat in a waiting room, holding hands, praying to gods they weren't sure existed. When the doctor finally came out, his face was tired but hopeful. "He made it," he said. "He's going to be okay." Recovery was long. Painful. Daniel missed a year of school. Relearned how to walk without stumbling. Dealt with headaches that felt like thunder in his skull. But through it all, he kept that keychain. On his nightstand. In his pocket. A reminder that someone believed in him, even when he wasn't sure he believed in himself. Years passed. Daniel grew up. The scar on his head faded into a thin line hidden beneath his hair. He went to college. Studied theater. Found that when he stood on a stage, when he held a microphone, something inside him came alive. The fear he'd carried since he was 7 transformed into something else. Power. Purpose. A voice that needed to be heard. He became a comedian. Not famous. Not yet. But good. The kind of good that gets you spots at open mics, then small clubs, then slightly bigger clubs. He told stories about his childhood, about survival, about finding humor in the darkest places. And every time he performed, he carried that keychain. His good luck charm. A promise kept. And then came the night that would change everything. The night Robin Williams walked into a comedy club in San Francisco, looking for new talent. The night their paths would cross again. The night Daniel would finally understand what a promise really means. The club was packed. Robin was there incognito, just another face in the crowd, scouting for his charity show. He did this sometimes, looked for young comedians who had something real to say. The host announced the next performer. "Please welcome to the stage, Daniel Chun." Robin barely looked up at first. He'd seen 100 young comics. Talented kids trying to find their voice. But then Daniel started talking. About being a kid in a hospital. About a surgery that could have ended everything. About a man who gave him a microphone keychain and told him he'd be a superhero. Robin's head snapped up. His breath caught. It couldn't be. But then Daniel reached into his pocket and held up the keychain. The same one. Worn, scratched, but unmistakable. This, Daniel said to the audience, was given to me by someone who saved my life. Not the doctors. Not the medicine. But a man who made me believe I had a future worth fighting for. The audience was listening. Really listening. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. I never got to thank him. I was 7. I didn't understand. But Robin Williams, if you're out there somewhere, if you can hear this, I want you to know. You were right. I came back stronger. And I'm using my voice. Just like you told me to. Robin stood up. He didn't mean to. His body just moved. People turned confused, wondering why someone in the back was standing. And then someone recognized him. A whisper rippled through the crowd. That's Robin Williams. That's actually him. Daniel's eyes went wide. He saw Robin. And Robin saw him. Across the room, across 23 years, across a promise that had never been broken. Robin walked toward the stage. The audience parted. Nobody said a word. This wasn't a bit. This wasn't part of the show. This was real. Daniel's hand was shaking. Robin climbed onto the stage. They stood there, facing each other, and for a moment neither of them could speak. Then Robin's face crumpled. His hand went to his mouth. And he started to cry. Not the gentle tears of a touching moment. The deep, shaking sobs of a man who had carried so much weight, helped so many people, but never knew if any of it truly mattered. You kept it, Robin whispered, looking at the keychain. You kept it. I never let it go, Daniel said, his own voice breaking. Not once. Robin pulled him into a hug. The kind of hug that says everything words can't. The audience was crying. The other comedians backstage were crying. The bartender was crying. Because this wasn't about comedy. This was about something bigger. Something that mattered. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe now, because what happens next will remind you why human connection is the most powerful force on earth. Leave a comment and tell us about a moment someone changed your life. When they finally pulled apart, Robin wiped his eyes. He tried to laugh, that reflexive defense mechanism he'd built over decades. But he couldn't. Not this time. I've done a lot of shows, Robin said to the audience, his voice raw. I've told a lot of jokes. But this, right now, this is the only moment that's ever truly mattered. He turned to Daniel. I give that keychain to kids sometimes. When I visit hospitals. When I meet someone who's scared. I tell them it's magic. I tell them it'll keep them safe. But I never ever thought I'd see one of them again. I never thought I'd know if it worked. It worked, Daniel said simply. I'm here. Because of you. Robin shook his head. No. You're here because you fought. Because you survived. Because you chose to live. I just gave you a piece of metal. You gave me hope. Daniel corrected. When I had none. When I was 7 years old and thought I was going to die. You looked me in the eye and told me I was going to be a superhero. And I believed you. Because you believed it first. The silence in that room was sacred. It was the kind of silence that only comes when everyone present understands they're witnessing something they'll tell their grandchildren about. Robin looked out at the audience. He looked back at Daniel. And he made a decision. Ladies and gentlemen, Robin said, his voice steadier now, I came here tonight looking for talent. But I didn't expect to find family. Daniel, would you finish your set? I want to hear everything. Every joke. Every story. Everything you've become. Daniel nodded, unable to speak. Robin stepped back, giving him the stage. But before he walked away, he leaned in close and whispered, "I'm so proud of you. I want you to know that. I'm so proud." Daniel performed. And it was the best set of his life. Not because the jokes were perfect. Not because the timing was flawless. But because he was performing for the person who taught him that his voice mattered. Every punchline, every story, every vulnerable moment was a gift. A thank you? A promise returned. When he finished, the audience exploded. Standing ovation. Not for the comedy. For the moment. For the connection. For the reminder that sometimes, in this dark, complicated world, people do beautiful things for no reason other than kindness. And sometimes, against all odds, we get to see the impact of that kindness. Robin came back on stage. He and Daniel took a bow together. And as they stood there, side by side, Robin realized something he'd been searching for his entire career. Validation. Not from awards or fame or box office numbers, but from knowing that one small act of kindness had rippled out into the universe and changed someone's entire trajectory. After the show, they sat in the green room. Just the two of them. Daniel showed Robin photos. His family. His girlfriend. His little comedy career that was slowly building. Robin listened. Really listened. Not performing. Not on. Just present. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said finally. "Why do you do it? The hospital visits. The random acts of kindness. You don't have to. Nobody would blame you if you didn't. So why?" Robin was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. Honest. "Because when I was young, I was lonely. Deeply lonely. And I learned that making people laugh was the only way I could connect. But laughter fades. Jokes get old. I spent years wondering if anything I did actually mattered. If I was just noise." He looked at Daniel. "But you're not noise. You're proof. Proof that sometimes, when we reach out, when we try to help, it actually works. You're the answer to a question I've been asking my whole life." "What question?" Daniel asked. Robin smiled that sad, beautiful smile. "Do I matter? And tonight, because of you, I finally know. Yes. I do." Share this video if you believe in the power of kindness. Subscribe so these stories keep reaching people who need them. Because moments like this remind us why we're here. The story didn't end that night. Robin invited Daniel to perform at his charity show. Then another. And another. He became a mentor. A friend. A father figure to someone who needed one. They talked on the phone. Shared meals. Laughed about the absurdity of life and cried about its beauty. Daniel's career grew. Not because of nepotism. But because Robin taught him something more valuable than connections. He taught him authenticity. How to mine pain for purpose. How to turn scars into stories. How to stand on a stage and be unflinchingly, courageously human. Years later, when Robin passed, Daniel spoke at a small private memorial. He held up the keychain. It was even more worn now. The red paint chipped. The metal dull. But it was still there. Still carried. Still cherished. "This keychain has been with me for 26 years, Daniel said, his voice steady despite the tears. "Robin gave it to me when I was 7. He told me I'd be a superhero. He told me the world needed my voice. And he was right. But what he didn't tell me, what I only understood later, is that he was describing himself. He looked at the small gathering. Robin's family. Close friends. The people who knew the real man, not the persona. Robin made everyone feel seen. Feel heard. Feel like they mattered. And in doing so, he mattered more than he ever knew. This keychain isn't just my good luck charm anymore. It's my reminder. That kindness echoes. That one moment of genuine human connection can change everything. That we all have the power to be someone's superhero. We just have to choose it. The funeral ended. People scattered. But Daniel stayed. He walked to Robin's casket and placed the keychain inside. You gave this to me, he whispered. Now I'm giving it back. You'll need it, wherever you are. Because even heaven needs someone to make them laugh. But before he closed the casket, he paused. Something didn't feel right. He picked the keychain back up. Because Robin didn't give it to him so he could return it. He gave it to him so he could pass it on. So he could be to someone else what Robin had been to him. Daniel started visiting children's hospitals. Every month. Sometimes more. He'd sit with scared kids waiting for surgery. He'd do voices. Tell jokes. Make them forget, just for a moment, that they were afraid. And when he left, he'd give them each a small microphone keychain. A good luck charm. A promise. When you wake up, he'd tell them, you're going to be a superhero. And superheroes always come back stronger. This is yours now. And when you're ready, you're going to use your voice. Because the world needs to hear it. Every child he visited carried that keychain. Some kept it for weeks. Some for years. Some for a lifetime. And Daniel knew that somewhere, someday, one of those kids would stand on a stage. They'd tell their story. They'd reach into their pocket and pull out a worn piece of metal. And the cycle would continue. Because that's what Robin taught him. That's what the keychain really meant. Not luck. Not magic. But legacy. The understanding that we're all connected. That the kindness we show echoes further than we'll ever know. That one small act, one genuine moment of seeing another person and saying, "You matter," can ripple out across decades and change the entire trajectory of a life. Robin Williams is gone. But his impact remains. In every comedian who learned to be vulnerable. In every person who chose kindness over cruelty. In every child who holds a keychain and believes they can be a superhero. The night Daniel stood on that stage and Robin broke down wasn't just about a reunion. It was about proof. Proof that when we choose to see people, truly see them, we plant seeds we'll never watch grow. But sometimes, if we're lucky, we get to witness the harvest. Robin gave Daniel a keychain. Daniel gave Robin something far more valuable. The answer to the question that haunted him his entire life. Did I matter? The answer was always yes. It will always be yes. And somewhere tonight, a child is holding that keychain, fighting their own battle, believing in their own future. Because kindness doesn't die. It multiplies. It echoes. It lives forever in the hearts of those who receive it and pass it on. That's Robin's legacy. Not the movies. Not the awards. Not the fame. But the quiet moments. The hospital visits. The promises kept. The lives changed by one simple truth: you matter. Your voice matters. And the world is waiting to hear it. Subscribe and share this story. Because the world needs to remember what real heroism looks like. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's a man sitting on a hospital bed, giving a scared child hope. And that hope, that single act of genuine human kindness, can echo across a lifetime.